Hey guys, so today we're checking out the Barricade HD flat fender flares with the LED DRLs and turn signals for the front, fitting all 2020 and newer Gladiator JTs. Now this will be a great choice for the Gladiator owners who are looking for an affordable set of flares to open up wheel well space in the front of their truck and of course get a more aggressive look. These will offer you a lot more space than your factory flares for larger wheels and tires, allowing better articulation off-road, and will add more of a heavy-duty look to your truck at the same time. I would like to call out that this will just be for the front fenders, but that will allow you to pair this with whatever rear fenders that you like, giving a more custom feel to your Gladiator. Now the fenders will be made of a 1.5mm carbon steel plate construction, being very strong and able to take some trail abuse while you are off-road. Now the steel construction will be better for somebody who's not necessarily a fan of plastic fenders and wants something that's a little bit more structured. These will also integrate a nice texture black powder coat finish to protect the steel underneath and of course help with that off-road and heavy-duty look. These will also include a DRL and side marker lights to keep up with DOT requirements, but also offer a more modernized look and elevate the function of a flare compared to some other steel options. And they're also going to be completely plug and play, keeping a little bit of peace of mind that you don't have to do any extra wiring. These will also be pretty affordable, coming in at roughly $550 for the pair. Now I do like the fact that these are pretty thin and minimal. When it comes to the design, perfect for somebody who doesn't necessarily want to go over the top with styling or likes the fact that these are pretty simple in design compared to some other choices that may be a little bit more tubular or have a boxier construction. Not to mention, again, these are also going to integrate the lighting compared to some other choices for steel flares that won't, giving this some extra bells and whistles. Now overall, if you're looking for a solid flare to add to the front of your JT for an off-road look and better function at a good price, then these are going to be a great choice. Now install is going to be a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about 2 hours to get the job done with some pretty basic hand tools. And one of our installers here is actually going to show you how to get these onto your Gladiator, so that's going to wrap it up for my review. Let's go ahead and get into the install.
The tools you'll need for this installation include an electric or regular ratchet, 10 and 13mm sockets, socket extension, 4mm hex head tool, 10 and 13mm wrenches, a trim removal tool, diagonal cutters, a drill, and a 25/64 inch drill bit. How's it going, everybody? Today we have some aftermarket fender flares that we're going to show you how to install on our 20 Gladiator. I'm going to show you how to do it step by step. So let's get started. So we're at the front driver's side fender, and the first thing you want to do is remove the fender liner. In our case, we have already done that all around, but I'm going to show you how you're going to do it. There's 3 bolts approximately right here, here, and here, and they're 10mm bolts. So get a 10mm socket and a ratchet to remove those. Other than that, it's just plastic clips all along the outside of the fender here. And there's a couple others in towards the back, and I believe maybe right around here. Just check to make sure you get all those plastic clips out and those 3 bolts, and then you can pull the fender liner out and we can move on. Once you have the fender liner removed, you'll have access to your wire harness here, which is connected to the lights. So we have a red locking tab we have to pull out here, and then we can just push down on the tab to remove the connector. Next, we're going to locate the 2 bolts holding the fender bracket onto the frame. Got 1 bolt here and 1 bolt here, and to remove those, I'm using a 10mm socket and my electric ratchet. Now that we got all the bolts and the plastic fasteners removed, we're going to grab onto the fender with our hands and just pull sharply on it to remove it off of the body and get it out of the way. So as you can see, when you pull the fender off, some of the clips might break. So if you don't want to break the clips, you might want to get a fender removal tool in behind it before you pull it. For us and this kit, we're not reusing these clips, so it's okay. But when you do pull the fender off, You're going to want to remove these with a trim removal tool before we put our new kit back on. And they are fragile, so they do break anyway when you try to remove them. So with all the clips removed, that is the uninstall process for the front driver's side. And for the front passenger side, you're just gonna repeat the same steps. We're ready to install our fender flares now. We're gonna grab our front driver's fender flare and just place it up on these two brackets right here. And then we'll grab the hardware that's provided with the kit and hand tighten it in place for the time being. To secure the fender, we need 2 each of the supplied hex head plates, hex head bolts here, as well as 2 flat washers and 2 lock washers. We're gonna take the plates, slide them into place. And put flat washers and lock washers over each of the bolts. So you're going to put the bolt through the oblong hole in the bracket here, not just the round hole. And we're using the oblong hole so that we have room for adjustment. And then once you have that bolt in by hand, just going to do the same thing on the other side. Next, we're going to secure the front of the fender to the mount here on our frame. And to do that, we're going to grab 1 each of the hex bolts, 1 of the lock washers, 1 of the flat washers, and 1 of the nuts. So we're going to go through the bottom of the bracket here with the bolt, set the nut on top, and again, we're just securing this by hand for the time being. Now moving on to the back of the fender, we're gonna grab 1 of the hex head bolts from our kit, as well as a flat washer, lock washer, and 6mm nut. We're gonna put the button head bolt through the front of our fender, and the nut we're gonna attach by hand from the back. Just leave that on loosely so we can adjust. Now at this point, what you would wanna do is grab a drill bit and drill just through the sheet metal, through that hole in the sheet metal in your Jeep, just wide enough so that you can put a threaded insert in there. That's what this step would be. But for our purposes, we're not gonna be drilling, so we're gonna leave it as is. Once you have the threaded insert through the back of the fender, next you're gonna grab 6 of the hex head bolts, flat washers, lock washers, and nuts, and thread them through by hand on the rest of the 6 holes in the fender, which are located here, 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 and then the last one is actually up here, kind of hard to see on camera. I'm just gonna move along and repeat the same steps for the other 3 bolts. We're ready to route and plug in our wiring harness, and there's a couple different ways you can do this. I'm gonna show you one way to do it. So what I'm gonna do is take the end of the harness plug, I'm gonna route it behind the wires here. Pull it all the way through. And then you can see the black piece of the frame here. I'm gonna go behind that as well. Then I'm actually gonna go in front of this wiring harness here. Then you just have to manipulate this plug a little bit. Plug your new harness in and push the safety, the locking mechanism in as well. And we're also going to put some zip ties through just to make sure it's nice and secure. The last thing you want is for this to be rubbing or touching anything that's hot or sharp. So we're going to zip tie it to protect our wiring harness. And the kit does come supplied with these zip ties. So it's one nice feature. Now that our main harness is secure, we can go ahead and take our resistor plugs here and attach them to the appropriate resistor plugs that is coming out of the resistor here. You can see we got yellow, so we're going to put yellow to yellow and then black to black. And we're also going to zip tie those in place. Actually, there's a nice little spot here where these wires can go up on this little fender bracket here. Put a zip tie right through the hole. And then get all your wires up there. And take a pair of diagonals and snip the ends. Careful not to cut the wires. Now we're ready to line everything up and tighten all the hardware down. I'm going to start with the button head bolts, which are a 4mm hex socket and also a 10mm wrench for the nut. So to line it up, I'm just going to push this in the place that I'd like it aesthetically. Get my 10mm wrench on the nut. I'm going to move along to the other 6 bolts and do the same thing. Also, don't forget about the other 3 bolts that are in the front of the fender. Once you got those tightened down, then you can move on to the 13mm hex head bolts. And for these, we're just using a 13mm socket. And the last hex head bolt is here in the front. And for this one, we need a 13mm wrench to hold the nut and a 13mm socket to tighten the bolt down. That's the install process for the front driver's side fender. For the passenger side front, you're just going to repeat the same steps. That's going to wrap up this review and install of our Barricade HD flat fender flares with LED, DRL, and turn signals for the front of your 20 and newer Gladiator JT. Thank you for watching, and for all things Gladiator, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.